The morning mist clung to the stones of Castleton, wreathing the towering walls in a pearlescent glow as the winter sun struggled to pierce through. From her chamber window, Eleanor Greymont watched as the merchants began to set their stalls for the day's market, their voices carrying up through the damp air like distant bells. Today was different. After 7 years of service as lady-in-waiting to the Duchess of Northumbria, Eleanor had received a summons that had sent her heart racing with both fear and anticipation. "My lady!" A tentative knock accompanied the voice of her maidservant. "Lord Sebastian has sent word that he awaits you in the East Gallery." Eleanor's fingers fumbled with the clasp of her woolen cloak. Sebastian Pendragon, master of the royal archives and keeper of the Duchess's most precious artifacts, rarely emerged from his domain beneath the castle. His message had been cryptic, written on parchment so old it crumbled at the edges. "I have found something that concerns your father. Come alone." Her father. Sir William Greymont had died a decade ago. His body returned from the Crusades wrapped in a blood-stained shroud. The whispers that followed him to his grave still haunted the halls of Castleton: traitor, thief, heretic. Eleanor had spent the years since trying to restore honor to their name, serving the Duchess with unwavering loyalty despite the suspicious glances and whispered words that followed her. The East Gallery was cold, its massive windows allowing winter's breath to seep through the leaded panes. Sebastian stood before a tapestry depicting the founding of the Crystal Palace, the legendary treasure room said to have been constructed by the first Duke of Northumbria to house relics from the Holy Land. Most believed it a myth, a tale told to children on winter nights. Sebastian Pendragon was not what most expected of a royal archivist. Where others might imagine a stooped, elderly scholar, he stood tall and broad-shouldered, though his hands bore the ink stains of his profession. His dark hair was pulled back from a face more accustomed to frowning in concentration than smiling in company, and today was no exception. "Lady Eleanor," he said, his voice low despite their solitude. "Thank you for coming." "Your message left little choice, my lord," she replied, studying his face for some hint of his purpose. "You spoke of my father." Sebastian glanced toward the shadows at the far end of the gallery before gesturing for her to follow. "Not here. The stones have ears." They descended through narrow passages, past kitchens where servants prepared the midday meal, down worn stone steps that spiraled into the foundations of the castle. The air grew thick with the scent of old parchment and leather as they reached the archives, a vast chamber lined with scrolls, codices, and artifacts collected over centuries. Sebastian barred the heavy oak door behind them before lighting additional candles. "What I am about to show you could mean death for us both if discovered by the wrong eyes." "You alarm me, Sir Sebastian." "With good reason." He withdrew a key from beneath his tunic and approached a small iron chest hidden behind a false panel in the wall. 3 nights ago, while examining records from the reign of Duke Aldrich, I found this." From the chest he withdrew a leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed with age. He handed it to Eleanor, who immediately recognized the flowing script that filled its pages. "My father's hand," she whispered, her fingers trembling as they traced the ink. "Indeed. It appears Sir William kept a record of his findings during the Crusades, though this journal only documents his final year abroad. It was hidden in the binding of a much larger tome about military strategies. Had the book not been damaged by water, I might never have discovered it." Eleanor opened the journal to its first entry, dated 15 years earlier, May the 12th, 1187, "We have at last reached Jerusalem. Lord Edmund is determined to claim the Crystal Chalice for Duke Northumbria, despite Bishop Raymond's warnings. I fear we pursue not a holy relic but a curse. She looked up sharply. "The Crystal Chalice? I don't understand." Sebastian's eyes gleamed in the candlelight. The Crystal Palace of Castleton was named for its most prized possession, a chalice said to be carved from a single massive crystal, used at the Last Supper. It disappeared during the fall of Constantinople, but rumors persisted that it was secreted away to Jerusalem. Your father was part of the expedition sent to retrieve it. Eleanor turned the pages, scanning entries that detailed months of searching, of bribes paid to local guides, of growing tensions within the expedition. Then she stopped, her breath catching as she read, December the 3rd, 1187, "We found it today, hidden beneath the altar of an abandoned church outside the city walls." The chalice is unlike anything I have ever beheld, seeming to capture light and transform it into something holy. Lord Edmund has changed since taking it into his possession. He speaks of power beyond earthly measure, of visions granted by the relic. I fear for his soul. Lord Edmund? Eleanor asked. The current Duke's father. Sebastian nodded grimly. Keep reading. The journal entries grew more disturbing, describing Lord Edmund's declining mental state, his refusal to return to England with their prize, his increasingly erratic behavior. Then came the entry that made Eleanor's blood run cold. February 17, 1188, Lord Edmund killed 3 local men today, claiming they sought to steal the chalice. I saw madness in his eyes as he cut them down. This is no holy relic but a cursed thing. Tonight I will take it from him while he sleeps and hide it where no man may find it again. My father stole the chalice, she whispered. Not stole. Saved, Sebastian corrected. The final entries suggest he believed the chalice was corrupting Lord Edmund's mind. That its power was not divine but something darker. But this contradicts everything said about my father. He was branded a traitor for abandoning Lord Edmund, for leaving him vulnerable to enemy forces. Sebastian's expression darkened. Because Lord Edmund lived to tell his version of the tale. He returned to Castleton raving about betrayal, about how Sir William had stolen a priceless relic and disappeared into the night. But your father's journal tells a different story. Eleanor flipped to the final pages, where her father's handwriting had grown jagged with urgency. March 1, 1188, I have sealed the chalice within the walls of St. Agnes Monastery. The abbot has promised it will remain untouched, its location known only to him and recorded in their most sacred text. Lord Edmund pursues me. I must reach home, must warn the Duke of what his son has become before it is too late. The final entry was brief, a hasty scrawl. March 20, 1188, I sail for England tonight on the merchant vessel Peregrine. God forgive me for what I have done, and what I have yet to do. Eleanor closed the journal, her mind racing. My father died defending Castleton from raiders. He never betrayed anyone. That is the official account, Sebastian agreed. But consider this, what if Lord Edmund, having lost the chalice, manufactured the raid? What if he needed to silence your father before he could reveal the truth about what happened in Jerusalem? That's treason to even suggest, Eleanor whispered, though the pieces aligned with terrible clarity. Lord Edmund had become Duke after his father's death, ruling with increasingly cruel policies until his own passing 5 years ago. His son, the current Duke, was cut from the same cloth. Why show me this now? She demanded. Sebastian hesitated, then reached into the chest again and withdrew a scrap of parchment. Because of this. It arrived yesterday from St. Agnes Monastery. The abbot has died, and in examining his personal effects, they found instructions to send this to the archives of Castleton. The parchment contained a single line written in a shaky hand, *The Crystal Palace lies beneath the 3rd stone of St. Michael's altar. St. Michael's Chapel, Eleanor breathed. Here, within Castleton's walls. A chapel that Lord Edmund ordered sealed after returning from the Crusades, claiming it was structurally unsound, Sebastian added. No one has entered it in 15 years. Eleanor stared at the parchment, then at her father's journal. You believe the chalice is here? That my father managed to retrieve it from Jerusalem and hide it before his death. I believe your father was a man of honor who died protecting others from something he deemed dangerous. And I believe the truth of what happened has been buried too long. Sebastian's eyes met hers with unexpected intensity. The question is, what do you intend to do with this knowledge? What can I do? The Duke would have me executed if I accused his father of murder. Perhaps not the Duke, Sebastian said carefully. But there is another who might listen. The Duchess has always shown you favor, has she not? Eleanor considered this. The Duchess of Northumbria, married to the Duke for political alliance rather than affection, had indeed been kind to Eleanor, taking her into service when others would have shunned the daughter of a supposed traitor. It would be a risk, Eleanor said. Everything worthwhile is. Sebastian closed the chest and returned it to its hiding place. Consider what I've shown you. Your father's name could be restored, but more importantly, the truth would be known. And the chalice. Sebastian's expression grew troubled. If it truly holds the power your father described, perhaps it's best left where it is, sealed away and forgotten. But they both knew such secrets rarely remained buried. For 3 days, Eleanor carried her father's journal hidden within her garments, its weight a constant reminder of the choice before her. On the 4th morning, as she helped the Duchess dress for the day, she found her courage. "Your Grace, might I speak with you on a matter of great delicacy?" The Duchess, Elizabeth of Mercia, was a woman of quiet dignity whose pale beauty had not faded with the years. She dismissed her other attendants with a gentle wave. "What troubles you, Eleanor? You've been distracted these past days." Eleanor produced the journal, her hands trembling slightly. "This belonged to my father. It tells a different story of what happened during the Crusades, of why he was branded a traitor." The Duchess listened without interruption as Eleanor recounted what she had learned, her expression growing graver with each revelation. When Eleanor finished, the Duchess sat in silence for a long moment. "I always suspected there was more to Lord Edmund's tale," she finally said. "He returned from Jerusalem changed, consumed by rage and obsession. The old Duke believed him cursed." "Then you believe my father's account?" "I believe your father was not the man history has painted him to be." The Duchess rose, moving to the window that overlooked the castle's inner courtyard. "But proving this will be dangerous. My husband reveres his father's memory. I don't seek to damage the Duke's reputation, Your Grace. I only want the truth known about my own father." The Duchess turned, her gaze sharp and assessing. "And what of this chalice? Do you believe it remains hidden in St. Michael's Chapel?" Eleanor hesitated. "Master Sebastian thinks it would be wiser not to disturb it." "Master Sebastian shows wisdom beyond his years," the Duchess murmured. "Yet some secrets refuse to remain buried." She seemed to come to a decision. "I will help you access the chapel, but what we find there must remain between us. Do you understand?" "Yes, Your Grace." "Good. Meet me at the western postern gate tonight after Vespers. Bring Master Sebastian if you wish, but no others." The western postern gate lay in shadow, unused for years since the construction of the new Bailey Wall. Sebastian met Eleanor there, carrying a small lantern and tools that might be needed to access the sealed chapel. "Are you certain of this course?" he asked quietly. "Once taken, it cannot be undone." "My father died with his honor stained," Eleanor replied. "I cannot turn away from the chance to restore it." The Duchess arrived moments later, wrapped in a dark cloak, a ring of iron keys in her hand. "These have been passed from Duchess to Duchess since the founding of Castleton," she explained as they followed her through a narrow passage hidden behind a tapestry in the old keep. "Some doors are not meant to be opened by men." The passage descended into darkness, the air growing thick with dust and the smell of stagnant water. Eventually, they reached an archway sealed with stone and mortar. "St. Michael's Chapel," the Duchess whispered. "Sealed by Lord Edmund's command 15 years ago." Sebastian examined the mortar. "This has been disturbed before," he noted, pointing to scratches in the stonework. "Someone has entered here since it was sealed." "Lord Edmund perhaps," the Duchess suggested. "He would often disappear for hours in the final years before his death." Working carefully, Sebastian used his tools to loosen several stones where the mortar had already crumbled with age. Soon they had created an opening large enough to pass through, revealing the forgotten chapel beyond. The room was small but exquisite, its walls painted with faded scenes of angelic hosts. At the center stood a simple stone altar beneath a window of stained glass depicting St. Michael slaying a dragon. Moonlight filtered through the colored panes, casting prismatic shadows across the floor. "The third stone," Eleanor murmured, approaching the altar. The flat stones that formed its top were massive, each easily the width of a man's outstretched arms. Sebastian joined her, running his hands along the seams between the stones. "Here," he said, finding a small groove in the third stone. "There's a mechanism of some kind." With effort, they shifted the heavy stone to reveal a cavity beneath. Inside lay not a chalice, but a sealed metal container and another journal bound in red leather. The Duchess took the journal while Sebastian carefully opened the container. Inside, nestled in layers of silk, was a small crystal shard no larger than a fingertip, glowing faintly with an inner light. "This is all?" Eleanor asked in disappointment. "A fragment." "Listen to this," the Duchess interrupted, reading from the journal. "May 10, 1188, I have destroyed the chalice, breaking it into 12 pieces to be scattered across Christendom. Each fragment retains a measure of the whole's power, but divided thus, the danger is diminished. This smallest piece I keep as proof and warning. The Crystal Palace will house it, hidden from those who would misuse its power." "This is not my father's handwriting," Eleanor noted, looking over the Duchess's shoulder. "No," Sebastian agreed, examining the journal's binding. "This bears the seal of Duke Aldrich, Lord Edmund's father. The old Duke must have learned what his son had done and taken steps to remedy it." "But why not make this known?" Eleanor asked. "Why allow my father to be remembered as a traitor?" The Duchess turned to another entry. "I cannot publicly condemn my son without destroying our house. Sir William Greymont died protecting us all from this cursed object's influence. His sacrifice must remain secret, though I have ensured his family will never want for protection." Eleanor remembered how, after her father's death, her family had mysteriously retained their lands despite the charges of treason. How positions at court had been found for her brothers, and eventually for her. The old Duke had kept his word. "So my father stole the chalice to protect Lord Edmund from its influence," Eleanor said slowly. "And Duke Aldrich destroyed it to protect everyone else." "Except this piece," Sebastian noted, studying the crystal fragment which continued to emit its strange glow. "And whatever other pieces may still exist. This is why Lord Edmund became increasingly unstable," the Duchess mused. "He was searching for the fragments, wasn't he? The obsession consumed him until his death." A sudden noise from the passage made them all freeze. Sebastian quickly closed the metal container and returned it to its hiding place. "Someone comes," he whispered. They barely had time to retreat into the shadows before a figure entered the chapel, the Duke himself, his face illuminated by the lantern he carried. "I knew someone had discovered the passage," he said, his voice echoing in the small space. "Show yourselves." The Duchess stepped forward first. "Husband." The Duke's expression registered shock, then anger. "Elizabeth? What madness is this?" "No madness," she replied calmly. "Only truth long overdue." She gestured for Eleanor and Sebastian to join her. The Duke's eyes narrowed as he recognized them. The archivist and Greymont's daughter. "I should have known. What lies has he been filling your head with, Elizabeth?" "Not lies," Eleanor said, stepping forward with her father's journal. "My father's own words, written during the Crusades. Words that tell a different story about what happened to the Crystal Chalice." For a moment, the Duke seemed poised between rage and violence. Then, surprisingly, his shoulders sagged, and he looked suddenly older than his years. "So it's finally come to light," he sighed. "I wondered when the past would catch up with us." "You knew?" the Duchess asked, disbelief evident in her voice. "Not at first," the Duke admitted. "My father never spoke of it while he lived. It was only after his death, when I found his private journals, that I learned what my own father had done. How he destroyed the chalice that my father had become obsessed with. And my father's role in all this." Eleanor pressed. The Duke met her gaze directly. "So William Greymont was a better man than my father. He recognized the chalice's corrupting influence when others did not. My father spent years hunting the fragments, eventually leading to his deterioration and death. I sealed this chapel to prevent others from discovering the truth and perhaps following the same path." "Yet you allowed my father to be remembered as a traitor," Eleanor said, unable to keep the bitterness from her voice. "Would you have preferred the truth?" the Duke countered. "That your father stole a holy relic, divided it, and helped scatter the pieces? The Church would have declared him heretic and condemned his soul for eternity. At least as a fallen knight, he could be mourned with honor. Eleanor had never considered this perspective. The label of traitor, while painful, had indeed been preferable to heretic in the eyes of the Church. Sebastian spoke for the first time. What of the fragment hidden here? It still emanates power. The Duke's expression darkened. It should remain buried. I've seen what desire for such power can do to a man. My father was not the only one affected. Yet knowledge of its existence has surfaced again, the Duchess pointed out. Secrets have a way of refusing to stay hidden. What would you have me do? The Duke asked wearily. Announce to the world that my father was driven mad by a cursed relic. That would bring every power-hungry lord and cleric to our doorstep, searching for the remaining fragments. Eleanor considered her father's journal, the secrets it contained, and the man who stood before her, not the imperious duke she had feared, but someone struggling with the weight of his own family's troubled past. Perhaps there is a middle path, she suggested. My father's name could be quietly restored without revealing the full truth about the chalice. A document acknowledging his service and loyalty, kept in the archives. And the fragment? Sebastian asked. We return it to its resting place, the Duchess said firmly. But we ensure it can never again be found. The chapel will be properly sealed, not merely walled off. The Duke studied each of them in turn, then nodded slowly. It seems I underestimated all of you. I expected demands, accusations, not wisdom. We all serve Castleton in our own ways, the Duchess replied with quiet dignity. Some through strength of arms, others through strength of character. The Duke approached Eleanor, taking her father's journal with careful hands. May I? When she nodded, he opened it to the final pages, reading Sir William's last words. After a moment, he closed the journal and returned it to her. Your father was the truest knight I've ever known, he said softly. I will see his name restored, Lady Eleanor. You have my word. Spring came early to Castleton that year. The gardens burst into bloom as workmen completed repairs to St. Michael's Chapel, now reopened as a place of prayer though the altar remained untouched. Beneath it, the crystal fragment lay sealed in lead, then stone, then iron, layers of protection suggested by Sebastian Pendragon, who had delved deep into ancient texts to find methods of containing such objects. Eleanor stood at the same window where she had watched the market months earlier, though her eyes now saw beyond Castleton's walls to the rolling countryside beyond. In her hand she held a newly penned document bearing the Duke's seal, officially recognizing Sir William Greymont's extraordinary service and unwavering loyalty to the House of Northumbria. It doesn't mention the true nature of his service, Sebastian observed, joining her at the window. Their friendship had deepened through their shared secret, blossoming into something neither had yet dared name. No, Eleanor agreed. But those who need to know, do know. That's enough. And the other fragments? 11 pieces scattered across Christendom, each holding power. Eleanor turned from the window to face him. Perhaps that will be another quest, for another time. My father did his part. We've done ours. Let future generations decide if they wish to uncover more of the Crystal Palace's secrets. Sebastian nodded, understanding in his eyes. Some treasures are meant to remain lost. And others, Eleanor said, thinking not of crystal fragments but of restored honor, of unexpected alliances, of the man standing before her, are found when we least expect them. Outside, the bells of Castleton began to ring, calling the household to prayer. Eleanor and Sebastian joined the procession moving toward the chapel, their shared secret a bond between them as they stepped from shadow into light.